Hi, I'm Raquel from the blog Out of the Past, and I'm here with a book review video. And the book I'm talking about today is this one right here, Dynamic Dames, 50 Leading Ladies Who Made History by Sloan DeForest. This comes out in July from TCM and Running Press. And this book is amazing. If I don't convince you by the end of this video that you need to go get this book, then I will not have done my job. It is basically female empowerment in physical form. It's just an amazing feminist film history book, one that I've always wanted but didn't know I wanted. So what is a dynamic dame? A dynamic dame is a woman who is empowered, she is independent, she's her own hero, she faces adversity, she's complicated, she's nuanced, she's interesting, and this book collects 50 different dynamic dames over history, over film history, from the 1920s to present day. And the 50 dynamic dames are female characters, so they're fictional characters, a mix of like iconic roles and some more obscure ones. And it also talks about the actress behind the role and how that actress came to make that part, and how both the character and the actress in real life kind of correlate to each other. And it's grouped in a very interesting way. It's not necessarily chronological, it's grouped by themes. So that I think is really interesting. This could have just been a chronological book of 50 actresses over history, and it would be 50 little mini biographies. But what I like about it is that it's 50 fictional characters and what these characters portrayed, how they came to be made, how they could have influenced an audience, how they influenced future parts, how the actress came to that role, what from herself she put into the part. That's very important because you can't really divorce the fictional character from the real woman. So that has all that information in here. So I'm going to go through all of the basics of the book and why I think you should get it. So this is a hardcover book. It's very compact, which makes it really easy to hold and read, which I like. Has these beautiful end papers, which are gorgeous. So it's grouped by theme, as I said, and the different themes are pre-code bad girls, real role models, which are basically biopics, big bad mamas, fatal femmes, ladies who laugh, women of mystery, strong survivors, and superheroines. So I like that fact that they're grouped by theme because, I mean, chronological is interesting, but maybe some of us would stop at like 1960s. But the fact that they're grouped in themes makes you want to keep reading because you want to learn about all the comedic roles, or you want to learn about all the empowered mother roles, or you want to read about all the pre-code roles. And there's a foreword by Julie Newmar, which is an excellent read in itself. Now, the author, Sloan DeForest, also wrote this book, Must-See Sci-Fi, 50 Movies That Are Out of This World, which is actually, it's my favorite read from last year. I've always been a sci-fi skeptic, and she convinced me to start watching science fiction because it's just a combination of a great writing style, great narrative voice, lots of really interesting information, lots of context. I love context. So because I was kind of skeptical about science fiction, it was basically me pushing myself to kind of broaden my horizons, so I'm really glad I read this and it really convinced me. But with Dynamic Dames, I'm already interested in feminist film history, I'm interested in empowered women, I'm interested in female roles, I'm interested in the trajectory that women have had in their careers over the scope of film history from the very beginning to present day, and how things have changed and how things have not changed. So what's great about this book is that I was already super interested in the subject matter, and like with the sci-fi book, the author has an amazing style of writing. It's very engaging, you want to keep reading, and this it's basically a rundown of the character and how the actress came to that part, any kind of obstacles that the actress faced in playing the role, or anything that happened that was kind of like a maybe a little miracle that made that part happen. Those are really interesting stories. And here's one with Greta Garbo and Queen Christina. So how it's set up, there's usually about 2 spreads devoted to each character. So you have usually this big image of the actual character and the actress, and then just kind of a rundown about the history, a little bit about the plot. There are a few spoilers, but it's not spoilery, so I felt like if I actually didn't know the movie, like I've seen Queen Christina, but if I didn't know the movie, it actually was a benefit because it made me want to watch the movie, and I'll get to that in a moment. So you have the history of it, then there's always one really great kind of feminist quote from the character, something that the character said in the movie, and I think that's just fantastic. I always looked forward to every single section as getting to that quote and seeing what she picked. And then there's like a little trivia bit called Did You Know, which also was in the sci-fi book, which I thought was a lot of fun. So what I like about this too is, okay, I mean, like, Queen Christina's a big role. Vivian Leigh, Scarlett O'Hara, she's in here. That's a big role. Obviously, Gone with the Wind is, big picture. But then there's, what I liked about it is that there's also, like, for example, Audrey Hepburn. She could have gone with Holly Golightly in Breakfast at Tiffany's, but she went with Sister Luke in The Nun Story. And I thought that's super interesting, is that they're not necessarily the picks that you expect, but they're also interesting picks. Like, for example, here's Elizabeth Taylor as Queen Cleopatra. I don't want to show you too much of the interior because copyright, but also I want you to go out and get this book on your own and see. So it is a mix of photos. It's kind of, the photos are fun, but really it's the text that's the most engaging and the reason you're going to want to get this book. So for you classic film nerds out there who are going to ask how many classic film actresses are actually in the book and how much of the new stuff is in there, because I know you're going to ask, I broke it down. So basically out of the 50 roles, there are 29 from 1960s and earlier, and there's 21 from the 1970s and on. So just to break down the 1960s and earlier, there's 1 from 1920s, Clara Bow, and then there's 9 1930s female characters, which I thought was super interesting because that's, with the pre-code era, you're going to have lots of really great female roles. 8 from the 1940s, 4 from the 1950s, and 7 from the 1960s. But I think what's the benefit of having a mix from the past and the present, or at least the recent past, is this will be a good book to give to somebody who's reluctant about classic films. Like, I have heard from women who have said, oh, I don't like classic movies because of the female roles and how women are portrayed in those old movies. I get that, and I think there's a substantial amount of classic female roles that are super interesting. You just kind of have to dig for them, or you have to really appreciate them based on the time. But the ones in the book are all really interesting, and it's almost in spite of the era that they're from, which I think is super interesting. And because you have characters like, you're gonna have Wonder Woman, you're gonna have like Uma Thurman in Kill Bill, or you're gonna have Carrie Fisher, Princess Leia from the Star Wars movies, you're gonna have Katniss Everdeen, you're gonna have more contemporary roles that people who are classic movie skeptics are gonna love. So this is almost like a gateway into the older movies and appreciating them. And also, if you are the opposite, you love classic movies but you don't think current movies are interesting, the writing in here is so engaging that you'll want to watch those movies. And just to give you an example, I've always been skeptical about the Terminator movies. I wasn't sure if I'd be interested in them, and the Must-See Sci-Fi book has a section on the Terminator, and I was kind of interested in it, but I didn't move it really high up on my list until I read this. chapter on Linda Hamilton as Sarah Connor in The Terminator and Terminator 2. I was like, what? Okay, so I literally stopped reading the book and watched the first Terminator. I haven't watched the second one yet. I'm super interested in the second one, but I literally stopped reading the book so I could watch the Terminator. And this is one of the things I love about this book. I mean, I've seen a lot of the movies that are in here, but then there's also plenty I haven't seen, especially the contemporary ones. I mean, I'm always looking for ways to broaden my horizons and really explore things that I've been reluctant to before. Like, I don't even want that reluctance anymore. I just want to watch movies and be open to them. So, but you also have to find the right moment to watch movies. So the fact that this kind of hooked me into the Terminator, and then I stopped and I watched it, just made for a really great experience. And as I said before, what I like about this book is that it has some of the big iconic roles, but then there's also lots of surprises. So I'm just going to talk about the 3 surprises in this book that just delighted me. These are films and characters I absolutely adore, and the fact that they're in this book made me incredibly happy. So the first one is Bette Davis as Helen Bauer in Ex-Lady. This is a pre-code film that I don't think gets enough love. It's amazing. Bette Davis, I mean, this is not even like the most iconic Bette Davis role. I think of all the Bette Davis roles, this is not one that comes to mind, but this is actually one of the most interesting. Even though she kind of, made fun of it, I think it's just a great part. I mean, she's a career woman who refuses to get married because that would mean compromise. That would be losing her independence. That would mean basically stifling her. And that actually is what happens because she has this romance with Gene Raymond. And he's not as talented as she is. They're kind of in the same business. She's an illustrator. He's an ad man. But she loves him, and that's kind of getting in the way of her like amazing career. And she's like living in sin with him. It's so pre-code, and it has some of the trappings of the era. But I love that at least in the first 30 minutes, you see her fighting for her independence. So the fact that that's in here made me so happy. And my second pick is actually not a classic movie. It's a movie that came out last year. It's the most recent movie in the book. And if you follow my new movie blog, Kel Movies, you will have seen my review about this. I saw this at TIFF last year in September. This is Colette, 2018, starring Keira Knightley. I saw this at the premiere there. I went to the press conference, and I got to see Keira Knightley, Denise Gough, and the director Wash Westmoreland. I love this film. I especially loved how it explored gender dynamics and how basically relationships between men and women, but also relationships between women and women. But Colette was a super interesting character. When I saw that this was in the book, I was like, what? So this taps into like 2 interests of mine, the old movies and the newbies, that I thought was super interesting. And then the third pick is going to surprise no one who knows me very well. It's Bonita Granville as Nancy Drew. If you know me, you know that I'm obsessed with Bonita Granville as Nancy Drew. Okay, so basically I've had this Nancy Drew set of the 4 movies, which are Nancy Drew Detective, Nancy Drew Reporter, I'm going to have to remember these, Troubleshooter, and Hidden Staircase. Detective and Reporter are my favorites, and Detective is the one that's in Dynamic Dames. I've had this at least over a decade. This is not even in print anymore. I believe these have been released by the Warner Archive Collection. But I still hold on to this. I think maybe I've had it as long as I've had my blog, which is since 2007, so like 12 years. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen this. I just love Bonita Granville's interpretation of Nancy Drew. She's spunky, she's feisty, everyone's kind of putting her down, but she's determined to solve the mystery. She literally won't let anyone get in her way. And Frankie Thomas is just her sidekick. He's not like, I mean, he helps her get out of scrapes, but he's not her hero. She's her own hero. And I love that something that the author explains in the book too is the fact that she's a young woman, she's a teenager. And I think one of the things, not only are like women sometimes oppressed, but like young women too. You see that a lot with Bonita Granville, like her interpretation of Nancy Drew fighting against these adults who think, oh, you're just a child. Okay, so I've done Nancy Drew cosplay. So I've basically dressed up as Bonita Granville as Nancy Drew before. Yes, that's happened. I had a phone case from, it's a publicity image. It's like a promo still of Bonita Granville and Frankie Thomas from Detective. And that's been on like my blog numerous times. It's the profile image of my other Twitter at Classic Film Read. When I went to go pay my respects to Bonita Granville at her grave, I actually brought the phone case with me because it just, like that, these movies mean so much to me. They're comfort movies, but they're lively and energetic as well, and I just love her so much. And I've watched many Bonita Granville movies, but nothing kind of equates to my love of the Nancy Drew movie. So I was very grateful to see that she was in here, and I loved reading what the author had to say about basically how unusual the project was and how they made like 4 movies in a very short period of time. For as much as I love this book, I do have one complaint about it, and it's the format. I don't know if you can see, but I've already damaged it. I was propping it up for a nice photo on my front porch, and it fell down, and it got really badly nicked. So I'm gonna, Running Press sent me a copy of this, which I'm very grateful for, but I'm gonna go out and buy a more pristine copy because this has already been loved and damaged, and it's been traveling everywhere with me. I took it to Montreal with me. I've been savoring it, and then and with the Terminator I had to stop and watch something. Stop reading and watch it. So it did take me a little while because I really wanted to savor it. I think the format is interesting. It's a small, compact hardcover, and I'm going to get into publishing terms, and I apologize about that. I'm been in book publishing for a long time, and I love nerding out about that kind of stuff. So it's paper overboard, and I thought that was an interesting choice considering must-see sci-fi. It's like basically the same size, but this is a paperback with French flaps. It's a sturdy paperback. Because this is black, it got like dinged a lot from, again, lots of love reading it and pouring through it and pulling it off a bookshelf, putting it back after I read it. So I kind of would have liked to have seen, because even though this gets dinged, I think this is a little better than this. I would have gone with the paperback version, and then they could have been a nice pair. Or I would have liked to have seen some kind of treatment like another Running Press book, which is Forbidden Hollywood. It's a bigger format. You have a nice dust jacket and a nice self cover. Protects it a little more. And also this, since it's so much bigger, I have a video review of this if you want to check this out, but because it's bigger, it has like more room for like bigger images. So this could have been cool as like a bigger book with better images, because there are some kind of blurry shots in this, and it really, I mean, the focus really isn't the photos, but yeah, you kind of just want to look at the photos. So that's my book review video. This is the first book I read for my summer reading challenge, which if you haven't signed up, make sure you do. I'll leave a link down below. I'm hoping that all the summer reading books that I work through, I will also do a video just like this one. So let's hope I can keep that up. And make sure you go out and get a copy of Dynamic Dames. So as I said, it publishes in July from TCM and Running Press. The author, Sloan DeForest, is going to be on TCM on July 10th for some programming. There's going to be a few films from the book. I won't tell you which one, so you can find out yourself. Few films from the book that are going to be discussed, which is really exciting. And I am interviewing Sloan DeForest. I have interviewed her for the Must See Sci-Fi book, which I'll leave a link down below for that too. That's on my blog. But my interview with her is actually going to be on the TCM main site, which I'm super excited about. And once that's live, I'll also leave a link so you guys can check that out. So make sure you get a copy of Dynamic Dames. Well, thank you to TCM and Running Press for sending me this book for review, and I hope you like this video. Thanks for watching. Bye!